Hi, everybody. Happy Hanukkah. So we have a bunch of people that are coming in from the waiting room. So we're going to just take some time to let people in for the next few minutes. And then we'll start in about 2 minutes. So if you want to light along with us, we invite you to get your candles ready in the menorah. And what we'll do is we'll light our shamash, and then we'll hold that and we'll do the blessings, and then we'll turn back and light our candles. So if you want to take a moment and get your Chanukah ready, if it isn't, feel free to do that.
Do you have a lighter? Don't on the server.
Are we on mute right now?
No.
You're not, but that's the joy of Zoom, right?
Yeah.
Everyone can meet. We'll get a more formal introduction in a little bit, but this is Alon and Emily, and there are wonderful guests for tonight, all the way from New Orleans.
Hello, how are you guys?
Hello.
Happy Hanukkah, everybody.
Happy Hanukkah.
And Alon will be leading us in our first blessing once we get started. So let's so to start again, this is there's the real challenges of COVID and not being able to be together and not being able to be in our sacred space together and being separated. But there's also blessings that come with it because we've had to be more creative and think, just put more thought into what we do and how we do it. So normally for Hanukkah, we would have had a really big party one night, and that would have been a really, really wonderful way for our community to come together and see each other. And we are sad that can't happen this year, but we are excited to be able to do that again next year. So this year we thought, well, what can we do that will be different and that will get us together and enable us to light together? And so this is the idea that we came up with. So we'll be together each night. We'll light candles together. We'll share some music, some singing, and then we'll learn from a special guest, from a guest star. So we are calling this Lighting with the Stars, and maybe we'll continue it even beyond COVID as well. So we'll take a moment now to just get our shamash lit. So if you have a menorah, if you want to just light your shamash, and then if you want to come back to the computer, and then we'll be able to hold our shamash and sing the brachot together. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la ya la la, ya la 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 ya la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la ya la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la la la. Ya la la la, ya la la la, ya la la la. So you can feel free to have this on gallery view or to have it in speaker view, whatever your choice is. We're going to start with our first blessing, which our guest star is going to lead us in. We invite you to sing along at home, and then our family will lead in the next two. We get to say Shehechianu tonight, being grateful for the miracles that we create and being grateful for the miracles that we experience, having the opportunity to be together in this miraculous way in sacred community in this moment. So I'll turn it over to Alon.
Thank you so much, Rabbi. Happy Hanukkah, everybody. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Hanukkah. Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asa nisim lavoteinu, bayamim ha'em, ba'azman ha'em. Shehechianu, V'kiyamanu, V'higyanu lazman hazeh. Hanirot halalu anu madlikim, Hanirot halalu anu madlikim, al hanisim ve'al haniflot, al milchamot ve'al teshuot. She'asita la'avotenu, She'asita la'avotenu, Bayamim ha'hem, Bayamim ha'hem, Bayamim ha'hem, Bazman hazeh. Ma'od tzor Yeshuati, L'chana elishabeach, Tikom betefilati, V'sham toda nizabeach, V'tachin matbeach, V'tzor hamatbeach, Azemor, V'shir mizmor, Chanukah tamizbeach, Azemor, V'shir mizmor, Chanukah tamizbeach. Miyam le'avurot Yisrael otamime, Ein hakabor lakum hagibor goel ha'am. Miyam le'avurot Yisrael otamime, Ein hakabor lakum hagibor goel ha'am. Shema bayamim ha'hem bazman hazeh, Makabi Moshiach ufodeh, Uvyamenu kol am Yisrael, Yitacher yakum ve'yigarel. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Happy Chanukah, everybody! So, is Carolyn Schulman on by any chance? Because she was going to lead us in a song as well if she got on. Do we know if Carolyn's on? Carolyn, text me if you are on so we can find you and unmute you.
Daniel can search for her and unmute her.
I think she might be on.
There, she's there.
Okay, great. I'm going to unmute her. Ooh.
One time too many. Do it again.
No, I think she's
got
unmuted.
it.
Yep, I think we did it. So, Carolyn, I suggest everyone go into gallery view, and then maybe Daniel can find her to highlight her when she starts singing. She's gonna. Ooh, we have Carolyn and Sarah leading us in a song. Awesome. Uh-oh.
Carolyn, no sound.
Carolyn, we can't hear. Hey, Carolyn, no sound. Carolyn, we can't hear you. So we are so excited to have Alon Shaya, who is a chef, a restaurant owner, and an author here with us this evening. So Alon has 3 restaurants, 2 in New Orleans, Shaya and Saba, and then, as we know who live in Denver, Safta, which is a wonderful, wonderful restaurant that is here. He also has a wonderful cookbook which is out. It came out in 2018. It's called Shaya, An Odyssey of Food, My Journey Back to Israel. And it's part memoir and part cookbook. His restaurant, Shaya, has been named by Bon Appetit as one of the 50 best restaurants in America. And he was named as one of the 50 most influential Jews by The Forward. Now, little story that when I had the opportunity to speak to Alon just a couple of days ago, he said, oh, you have all these good people coming, I don't know, he was being all modest. And I said, what are you talking about? You're one of the 50 most influential Jews in America, according to The Forward. And Alon said, my mother wrote that article, which is not true. It's not true, but it speaks to his humility and it speaks to his wonderful personality. I was also really impressed to learn that he's cooked for wonderful fundraisers. He's really been very involved in the philanthropic community for a variety of different really important causes, including one that's very dear to our heart and that we actually give to every month and renew that at Hanukkah time. Alex's Lemonade Stand, which was a charity that my son and daughter got us interested in. It's a charity that fights against childhood cancer and raises money to find a cure. In addition, there's some questions I look forward to asking Alon later on as well, because what I've learned about him recently and just reading his Facebook posts and reading about him is that he is truly a mensch. And so we're going to learn a little bit about his career this evening, but I think that what we're also going to get to see is the light that is within him and the mensch that he is. So thank you, Alon, and thank you, Emily, for being here with us this evening. Welcome.
Great. Yeah, so just to clarify, I only have 2 restaurants, Saba in New Orleans and Safta in Denver. I haven't been involved with Shaya Restaurant since 2017 when Emily and I started Pomegranate Hospitality and opened Saba and Safta. So if you come to New Orleans when the world gets back to normal, come visit us at Saba. Otherwise, we'll see you at Safta in Denver. And thanks again so much for having me be a part of this. This is very exciting for me. And happy Hanukkah, everybody. And I wanted to share a little bit about what I find to be light during Hanukkah. I think we all search for light. We all search for ways that our paths forward can be illuminated. And to do that, we need light. And how do we get light? Where does it come from? Well, light needs energy, and we all have energy within us. And we have to figure out how to turn the energy within us into light that can help us see forward and help light the way for us to make great decisions, to be part of a community, to do things that are important and that bring us joy and that bring us happiness. And so I do that through food and cooking, and that is what creates the energy in me to provide light and also to receive light. I believe that, through food and through cooking, I've been able to make such great connections and learn so much. I have a great story to tell, and one that's not too long, but it is about how I met Stephen Fenves, who is a Holocaust survivor, and he is 88 years old. And when he was 13 years old, he was forced out of his home in Subotica, Hungary, and sent to Auschwitz concentration camp. So him and his family were forced out of their home, and as they were leaving their house, all of the neighbors were lined up outside of his home, ready to go inside and take everything that they could to keep for themselves or to sell. They weren't aware that there was one person standing in that line who was the family's cook, whose name was Marish, which is Hungarian for Mary. And Marish went into the home while everyone was stealing the silver, stealing the plateware, the artwork. Marish saved the family cookbook, the Fenves family cookbook. And she also saved some of the mother's artwork, some of Stephen's mother's artwork. After Stephen survived Auschwitz, 20 years later in the 1960s, Marish tracked Stephen down and returned his family's heirloom, the Fenves family cookbook, to Stephen, who then held on to it for many years before he donated it to the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. And I was on a trip to Israel many years ago and learned about all of the recipes that were written down by prisoners of war during World War II and Jewish prisoners in the camps that would risk their lives to grab receipts or trash, paper, pieces of scrap paper, and they would write their recipes down and share stories of food and what food meant to them. And that's how so many of them would be able to think of something positive, think of happy memories that they had, and foods that their families would cook and set out on the table, and what their favorite dishes were, and how they would pass those dishes around and reminisce about the flavors of the brisket or the temperature of the soup. And I was so fascinated by it. I went and visited the Holocaust Museum in DC to see if they had any recipes that were rescued from the Holocaust. And lo and behold, they showed me this cookbook. And they said that that Stephen was a volunteer at the museum and lived nearby and would come and do talks regularly with visitors. And so I contacted Stephen and asked him if he would be willing to share those recipes from this book that had been in the archives, and asked him if he would be willing to help me cook from this cookbook that hadn't been cooked from since 1944, when it was confiscated, or when it was saved by Marish. And he said yes, and he has been translating recipes from Hungarian to English, and I've been cooking these recipes and sending him dishes in ice packed boxes to his home, and he's been tasting food like a roasted turkey that he remembers vividly from when he was a child, or fried semolina sticks, or walnut and poppy seed torts. And he's taken these bites, and it's brought his memory back to before the war, before the Holocaust, and what those recipes meant to him and to his family. And what I see through this exchange of sharing stories is me receiving light from Stephen, him sharing his light, the things that make him shine with me, and me being able to share my light with him through my cooking. And together we can share the light, and we can illuminate a path from New Orleans to Washington, D.C. that hadn't been illuminated before. And so that's my Hanukkah story for tonight, and how I encourage all of you to find the energy inside of you, and what does that energy, what kind of light does it create, and what kind of paths forward could it illuminate for you?
That's beautiful. So that's actually the story I was going to ask you a question about, because I saw a Facebook post about it and was just so moved to know that you were doing this. How amazing. So we want to invite folks to ask Alon questions. And so if you can put a question in, if you can put your questions in the chat, maybe Daniel, can you unmute yourself and ask some of the questions that are there?
I sure can.
Awesome. Great. Welcome. Everyone who doesn't know Daniel Sarche, you can't see him right now because he's got his camera off, it seems. But
Hey.
Daniel, there's Daniel Sarche. A nice background, Daniel. Are you really in the Rodef Sanctuary?
Yes.
Except for that we can see your ears like disappearing into
I'm doing the ghosting thing.
Exactly. So why don't you read us for the first question? If you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat.
All right, so this is from Meredith Levy. First question for you is, have you thought about opening a kosher or vegetarian restaurant in Denver? And P.S., so excited for the Kumquat Sufganiyot tomorrow.
Oh yeah, well, we have a restaurant that is, Safta is not kosher. There are many vegetarian options on the menu, and you can really eat through most of the menu as a vegetarian. But kosher cooking has not been something that we have done, only because I didn't grow up eating kosher food. My family would keep kosher during Passover. Otherwise, I was eating anything that I wanted to. And it's part of, I think, how I fell in love with so many different flavors and combinations and tastes that wanted me to become a chef. So I think that I'll leave the kosher cooking for people that have more of a direct connection to it. And for me, it's more about honoring the recipes of my Safta, my grandmother, and showing that off at Safta.
Awesome. Thank you. Do we have other questions?
None so far. But if you, oh yes, actually, just got one. Curious why you call it safta and not savta, given that in Hebrew it's spelled with a vet, not a peh. A peh.
Yeah, well, I called.
Wow, we're picky. I just want to say. Whoever asked that question, we're very specific here in Denver. Okay, give us your answer.
Well, my answer is that, I, growing up in America, would call my safta and spell it with an F. And as a kid, that's how I pronounced it, and then how my family would write it every time we talked about my safta Matilda. So I think it's more of a personal touch from my history and how Safta, the restaurant, became what it is, and less a literal interpretation of the spelling.
Beautiful. Okay, Jeff here has a question for you.
I have a question. What do you think it is that makes the pita breads so compelling at Safta? What is that?
Well, there's a couple of things. One is we work with a local miller who mills our wheat between stone wheels, and that's Moxie Bread Company in Lafayette, Colorado. And so they send us all of this beautiful fresh milled whole grain flour that's full of vitamins and minerals and flavor and hasn't been processed too much. And all the wheat is raised in small farms by families and not coming from big commodity wheat farms. And the other thing that makes it really special is the wood burning oven that we have at Safta, and we bake those pitas to order. So when they come out, they're still hot and full of steam. And when you open them up, all that pita steam escapes, and you can smell that fresh milled grain and all of the flavor that comes out of it. And then you have all these hummuses and saltine to dip that pita into. So that, plus the fact that we have an amazing, talented, wonderful team that really cares about making sure every pita is made perfectly, all that coming together, all those stars aligning, if you will, make the perfect pita.
Sweet. Okay, back to Daniel. He says he has some questions.
We've got quite a few. Do you think you could handle 3 at a time?
Yeah.
Well, these first couple I bet you can do pretty quickly.
Yeah, okay.
All right. So I'll keep these ones easy. Please settle a debate. Are the rose glasses in your restaurant a nod to your Bulgarian roots?
Yes. Well, they are designed by my grandmother. Painted that rose that is on the glasses, and our designers extracted that rose from a painting. And my wife Emily and I, when we were talking about how to make the restaurant feel like my Safta's kitchen, like my experience dining with my Safta, we looked to those glasses to kind of reminisce, and also the plateware and the menu items. But the glasses definitely bring back that sentimental, nostalgic feeling of being in my grandmother's home.
Very cool. Thank you very much.
And they're for sale. So you can go on our holiday market and buy them if you'd like at eatwithsafta.com.
All right. Awesome. Next up is these two. I'm just going to give you both at the same time real quick. First, what is the best thing you ate in Israel? And second, is it too late to sign up for your latke class on Sunday or your rice class the following week? I want to make sure we can plug those.
Great. Well, my most memorable thing that I've ever eaten in Israel, I would say, that is such a hard one because there was so much delicious food there. But I'd have to say it's the hummus at Abu Hassan in Jaffa. I find that hummus to be really delicious, and I eat it there with raw onion that I dip into the hummus. And that's when I think of my food in Israel, I always think back to that bite, and that being something that really influenced the way that I make my hummus. And then it is not too late to sign up. If you go to eatwithsafta.com, you can go online and purchase classes for the red beans and rice. And we're doing a series of virtual cooking classes moving forward. We're going to be making hummus in January. We also are going to be doing a kids latke class and an adult latke class coming up. So go to Eat with Saba. It's actually on our Saba website, not our Safta website. Eatwithsaba, SABA.com. And there you can see all of the wonderful options we have to offer.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cool. Are people able to eat indoors or outdoors at Safta? I'm guessing I know the answer to the first part of that question.
We know our dining room is closed because of COVID, and we were forced to shut our dining room down. So ordering takeout or delivery, or supporting us through buying merchandise or specialty meals or cooking classes is really the best way to support the restaurant at this point.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Any good or intriguing ingredient sources that you'd recommend?
Well, yes, there's a few. Tahini is one of my favorite ingredients. I use it in so much more than just hummus. And I get my tahini from a couple of friends that make it in Israel, but they're based in Philadelphia, and the company is called Soom, S-O-O-M, and they make really delicious tahini, and they sell it online. So
I just want to add in that I know those people, and so does Meredith Levy, who's on here. We know the owners of Soom, founders.
Amy,
that's awesome.
Amy and Shelby.
So Shelby, I used to run a monthly Minion in Center City. It was like a really fun Friday night service, and Shelby used to come, which is how I knew her, and then she started Soom. Very cool.
They're incredible. They're incredible people, and they make really, really good tahini.
Daniel, do we have other questions?
Yes, we have many more. Hang on, I'm navigating through.
Yeah, we probably will need to edit because of time, but I'm going to trust you. It's easy to read through a lot of questions when your screen is off. That's for sure.
Okay, cool. Can you share a story where an employee at Safta or Saba might have inspired you?
May have inspired me.
Yes.
Well, I mean, that happens every day. One of, I think, the most recent examples would be our pastry chef at Safta. Her name is Liliana Myers, and she makes these incredible pies. She decided to put the pies up for sale online when we had to reduce our capacity for dining, so that we could sell them online to help keep the restaurant going. And she sold hundreds of pies in a matter of minutes, or like within a few hours. The pies sold out so quickly, and I thought to myself, man, she just put herself out there, put all of her talent and passion into making these pies, and people really supported it. And it sold out so fast. And then she went ahead and released like another 100 pies for sale because the demand was so high. And I think that I am inspired so much by that commitment to keeping the business going and to sharing your talent and your passion with the community, and to making people feel happy during the holidays with delicious pies. And so it seems simple, but really, she went out of her way to make this extremely special. And I think that it really touched a lot of people and made a lot of people's holidays much brighter.
That's awesome. That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. We've only got a little bit of time left just for one more question. I'm going to save all of these from the chat, and we can work on something from there. But
let's ask him. Alon, can you give us 5 more minutes, and we can see how many we can get in 5 more minutes? Are you?
Of course.
Okay.
What we can do in that case.
So we can do as many as If he's open, then we can, and we have that many questions, and we have a ton of people on here. We can.
Yeah, of course.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Well, time for more questions. Do you have any general cooking tips or any tips about making latkes?
Yeah, definitely. So For latkes, my big tip is when you grate your potatoes and you grate your onion on a box grater or through a food processor, I take it and put it in a colander in the sink, and I squeeze out all of the excess water from those potatoes and onions, and a lot comes out. And I squeeze all that out and then season that mixture with a little bit of lemon juice and some whipped bites and a little bit of grated nutmeg and salt and cornstarch instead of flour, which I feel cornstarch gives it a much crispier edge and a less gummy texture on the inside. So it gives it a much lighter texture. And that's what I love about using cornstarch for latkes. It also makes it gluten-free when you do that as well. So if there's anybody out there with a gluten intolerance, cornstarch is a great substitute for flour and latkes. And that's how you really get a nice crispy edge, by squeezing all that water out and then using a little bit of cornstarch in there.
Nice. Those are some great tips. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Cool. Are any of the Hungarian recipes available for people to make themselves?
Yes, there are. If you visit the Holocaust Museum's website, they've posted some of articles that have come out about our collaboration, and there's a recipe out there for a walnut cream cake through a medium.com article. And then also on December 16th at 7:30 a.m. Denver time, 8:30 Central, I'll be doing a live Zoom with Steven, and we'll be talking through his childhood recipes, and I'll be sending him some food to taste, and we'll be on this Facebook Live event that's free to join. So if you check out my Instagram at Alon Shaya, you'll find a link in my bio to sign up and RSVP for this Facebook Live event. And the entire part of why we're doing this is to raise money so that more of these recipes can be translated. Steven's 88 years old. He can only translate so many of the recipes that are in this book. There's 150 recipes in this book. So we're working to raise money to translate the recipes and save some of these cherished recipes and bring them back to life in a way that they currently aren't able to be shared if you don't speak Hungarian or Polish.
Beautiful. Do you have one more question? And then I actually have a very short final question, and then we'll turn it over to Carolyn.
Sure.
You have one more there, Daniel?
What is a recipe that you experimented with that has hugely exceeded your expectations?
Well, that's a great question. I would say we serve a whole roasted cauliflower at SAFTA, which when I put that on the menu, never expected it to become such a popular dish, but it's kind of built this cult following of people that have never liked cauliflower before, that taste this wood roasted whole head of cauliflower that we first poach in butter and extra virgin olive oil and lemon and bay leaf and a little bit of white wine and some spicy chilies until it's tender. And then we pull it out and then roast it in an 800-degree oven till it caramelizes. And then we put a big steak knife right in the middle of it. And we serve that to people, and they get this whole head, and they're blown away by it. And then they taste it, and they always say that they've never had cauliflower like that before. So I would say that that's been kind of the most famous example of a dish that I thought was just a great way to use up a vegetable that I had and a lot of space in a wood-burning oven, and turned into something of a phenomenon.
Ooh, that sounds absolutely delicious. I'm gonna need to check that out. That's awesome.
Yeah, and we can vouch for that.
It is.
It's a substitute for the meat. If you keep kosher for the Chanukah menu, it's a substitute for the meat.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Daniel, what do you think? Did you get through a lot of them?
That was the large majority. Yeah, some of the
Great.
harder hitting questions, casting no aspersions on people's questions. But yeah, so Rabbi, if you've got one.
I have a question for you. So we have some kids on this call, and including my own, who are in the background. And I'm wondering what you can share with kids who are trying to figure out what their dream is and what their passion is, and what it means to sort of follow your passion. And if you can share with us how that sort of impacted you in terms of your life and just sort of jumping in and doing this, and being rated, right? You were named in 2015 the best chef in the South. That's a pretty amazing accomplishment. And I mean, did you think when you were 10 that would be you? And how did you sort of move to that space?
Yeah, well, I was a pretty lost child. I struggled very much with identity and confidence. I think a lot of it had to do with immigrating from Israel to America when I was 4 years old, and I didn't speak English when we first came to this country. And so my first years in school, while I was trying to build relationships, were very, very hard. And so that kind of stuck with me through middle school and high school. And I never quite felt like I belonged, or felt like I always felt a little different, but like not in a good way. And so when after years of being super self-destructive, my home economics teacher really saw that I had a passion for cooking and took me under her wing and helped me get into culinary school and follow my path for becoming a chef. And there was a time where I felt like I wasn't really going to be able to contribute anything of worth to society as a whole. And Donna showed me that I was, and it was because I had an internal passion for food and for cooking. I just didn't know how to quite harness that power and what to do with it at such a young age. So I would just say to any kid out there that's looking for what their next step is going to be and how they're going to get there is, first and foremost, do what makes you happy and do what brings you joy. If you do that, you'll never be doing the wrong thing. And there's many ways that a path can open up where you can take that passion and turn it into something that can become a career. So stick with it. Nothing is out of bounds. Nothing is too tall to reach. And just keep fighting, keep pushing, keep reaching for the things that bring you joy, and it will pay off tenfold as your life continues.
That's really amazing. That's such an amazing message for Hanukkah as well, when we're thinking about and projecting light out into the world. There's a reason why we traditionally light, like people light in all spaces, right? But the tradition is to light in your window or to light outside your door. And the truth is that I think that for this year Hanukkah, lighting on Zoom or putting a picture of your menorah on Facebook, that's like actually doing that mitzvah, because the idea is to share the light, right? These candles are not supposed to be used for anything except for bringing us joy. We're not supposed to read in front of them, to use the light to read, because we don't want to use them for anything other than just sharing the miracle and opening up hearts beyond our own hearts in the world. So what an amazing message that you just shared with us for all of our kids, that every single one of us, and for our adults too, because we all go through doubts, every single one of us has a light in us, and every single one of us has a light that needs to shine and needs to be seen. And it's figuring out what that light is, and to have a teacher or to be that teacher to help another person figure out what their light is. That's such an incredible blessing. One little follow-up, and then I think Danielle has one to enable you to talk a little bit about what's going on in New Orleans now. Is there something in your life, sort of a follow-up to the sort of finding your path into cooking? What's the thing in your life, if you had to name, what you feel most proud of in this moment, from going from being that kid to who you are now?
I think that the thing that I'm most proud of is, that I can help to set an example for people that were struggling the way that I was when I was a child. I have a foundation now that home economics teacher, Donna Barnett, her and I now have the Shaya Barnett Foundation, in which we work with schools to help students that are passionate about cooking find their paths forward. And we're partnered up with the Cherry Creek Innovation Campus in Colorado and the New Orleans Career Center here in New Orleans. And that, being able to positively influence people to find their passion, to find their light, has made me the most proud.
That is amazing. We are a very social justice oriented community here at Rodef Shalom. It is part of our name, being people who pursue peace, but we also have a group called Rodef Tzedek, a group that works through political action and through community organizing to create justice in our world, to create systemic change. And we also have a group, Po'alei Tzedek, that does works for justice in the way of, just getting out there and getting their hands dirty. And so if there's any way that we can help you in that endeavor, it's quite inspiring. So Daniel, why don't you ask him the final question, and then Carolyn, you're up. Alon, thank you so much for being with us tonight. So it's really special. Really special. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool. So last question for you is that word on the street is you've got another restaurant at the Four Seasons opening up in New Orleans, and we'd love to hear some more about that.
Four Seasons.
Ooh, I did read about that and forgot to ask. Thank you, whoever asked that.
Yeah, thank you. That will be our third restaurant when that opens, and it is going to be a Louisiana cuisine restaurant that we're very, very excited about. We're partnered with the whole Four Seasons team down here, who are incredible people and bring such experience and talent to hospitality. This is a building that since Hurricane Katrina has been empty. It anchors Canal Street right on the Mississippi River. And so it's such an iconic part of our New Orleans landscape that will be coming back to life. The light will be turned back on this building, and we are very excited to partner with them to open another restaurant so that in New Orleans we'll have two restaurants, Saba, and then the new one at the Four Seasons that we haven't released the name of yet. But it allows us to kind of spread our wings a little bit and cook some food that we haven't really been cooking before in restaurants, and just continue to be part of a community that we love and are proud to be a part of.
Thank you so much. So one of the reasons I was so excited when Carolyn brought up your name, like, hey, I have this connection, when I was trying to figure out who to bring on, who our stars going to be, was, first of all, you're clearly a highly acclaimed chef. But the other piece was reading up on you and just seeing what immense you are and how you have, throughout your career, advocated for people who have needed a voice. Whether that was within your restaurants or outside of your restaurants, whether that was creating a foundation or whether that was, getting your hands dirty, creating the change and creating the reality that we want to live in. And sometimes that work is really hard, and sometimes that's challenging on our souls, and sometimes it's challenging on our lives. And I just want to commend you for continuing to stand up for the right and the good, and for being a person that we can all look to and say that's a real mensch, and we want to live in that way as well. Thank you. Thanks for being here, and happy Hanukkah. Carolyn, you're on.
Okay, can you hear me?
Ooh, we can hear you. Yes, and we can highlight you now too. Yay, and we have Sarah too. Their team, the magic duo, to lead us out on Hanukkah. We're thinking about the light that is still hopefully shining in your windows or shining in your homes. Take a picture, put it on Facebook. Let's let the light shine. I posted and sent out something today. And I'm going to keep saying this over and over again this Hanukkah. The miracle of the first day of Hanukkah was that we actually had somebody who said, there's not enough oil, but I'm still going to light this flame. I am still going to light it, even though I know that the oil is going to go out. It wasn't in the oil lasting on that first day. There was enough oil for one day. It was in the choice and the decision to light. And we too make that choice each and every day. And so as we go out, let's hold that on this first night.
Ready? Oh, Hanukkah, come light the menorah. Let's have a party, we'll all dance the hora. Gather around the table, we'll give you a treat. Sevi bone to play with and latkes to eat. And while we are playing, the candles are burning low. One for each
Happy Hanukkah, everybody. See you tomorrow night at 4 o'clock. Tomorrow's 4 o'clock with State Representative Daphne Michelson-Janae. Saturday morning, we have the whole of the United Synagogue of Conservative Judaism board that will be at our services. So please come join us. Marty Zimmerman will be speaking, as well as the head of the Rabbinical Assembly and the head of the United Synagogue of Conservative Judaism. We will have a wonderful, beautiful service that morning, and then we'll be followed by Rachel Birnbaum, who is an author, who will be speaking on Saturday night, and an amazing concert with David Ross. And then you can see the rest of the lineup for the next week, including the Attorney General and the Governor on Sunday night and Monday night. So good to have you all here. Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah.